Hey guys, Julie Walls here with All Things Brain Retraining. I'm putting together my round and I'm recognizing medical PTSD pretty hugely in the last couple days. And I'm also recognizing limbic system issues lately. I had been on basically a high alert for like the last week prior to my dog passing away. My dog of 15 years had been with us for 15 years, and she started to slowly decline over the course of about 15 days. And I was basically her caretaker every day, just making sure that, watching her not being able to eat, suffering, walking issues, all sorts of things. And I was frantically on high alert, like to the point where I was like laying on the floor with her and watching her have difficulty with breathing and just overall life management. And unfortunately, we had to put her down because we knew, she was suffering. And the unfortunate thing is that I'm learning is that it's kind of evoked some issues that I still have to work on for medical PTSD, because my whole energy that was focused on her all week was kind of all for nothing, basically. I mean, I was constantly on top of dealing with, making sure she was eating and thriving and knowing that really in the end she was going to pass away. So it was a very difficult thing to process while dealing with this life circumstance. And it brought up a lot of emotions of like abandonment, suffering. I was really sick and I felt like I kind of was just suffering by myself, and I didn't want my dog to have that. So I was around the clock trying to keep up with her and trying to maintain her, trying to help her out with her health and everything, and pick her up, carry her, and she's a big lab and everything. And so it kind of just weighed on me a bit as far as, watching the suffering commence and knowing that she's suffering and I'm trying to keep her thriving, and in the end it's not going to work. Same thing with having a baby, but the positive thing is that you keep up with it and you are around the clock, restlessly trying to care for a baby, but knowing that the baby's going to thrive. It's just the opposite, though. It's kind of a defeating type feeling, in which I can understand how caregivers feel, because it's like feeling defeated every day that you try to help somebody heal and feel better. And so, I've been processing those emotions, which have kind of sucked a bit, but I've been utilizing some techniques to help me with that. And then we got thrown for a little bit of a loop to have to get my son's teeth pulled. And right when I got sick, right before I got sick, my son had an experience with the first round of teeth that he had to have pulled when he was a little bit younger, prior to getting braces. And we had a traumatic about 3 to 4 weeks with him after he had his teeth pulled. And just at that time, I was just getting the diagnosis of Lyme disease and all the crap that I started dealing with. And I felt very unstable. And then on top of that, have that stress of having to take care of a child that got kind of sick after his teeth were pulled. Well, now we have to get 2 more teeth pulled for his braces to be able to really, for his mouth to kind of grow in correctly and not have all the, issues with his teeth as his body's growing and his mouth's growing and his teeth are coming in. So I knew that we'd have to go through this process all over again, and the fear and the anxiety with all of it. And I recognized it when I got done with my dog. We put her down on Friday, and then kind of took about a day to try to process it all, and then resume life, right? So we try to resume life, and then come Monday, I knew that I was going to be leaving. So Friday the dog went down, and then Monday we have to turn around and drive, a couple hours to go to well-known oral facial surgeon to help with appropriately, extracting these teeth, and the anxiety, despite knowing that I did my research, we found the right guy who does ozone, does things to help proactively mitigate any problems, because what we did before, I didn't know. So I didn't know that there's a procedure and a safer procedure process with pulling teeth. And now that I know that, I do feel confident in knowing that I made the right decision and I have the right person in play, and we are proceeding to, we have to do this, I have to go through this. However, medical PTSD kicked me in my ass. And so I knew this morning when I woke up, well, first of all, I had a lot of dreams about, just losing things and being fearful and being anxious. And then the other part was waking up and having a lot of like frequency with urination, and that's usually my sign of like, oh my God, I'm starting to have like really bad anxiety kicking in. And then I started having like almost difficulty just taking really deep breaths, because I do a lot of breath work. And then, just hyper focused on worry and anxiety and stress, and how's my body going to handle this? How am I going to keep, manage it? How am I going to deal with the stress of going down here and going through this whole process with him? And then I found that after dealing with all this stress and worrying about it, and then it's an accumulation, and then all of a sudden now I'm just dead tired, like we're talking beyond fatigued, knowing that tomorrow when he gets done with his surgery, I'm going to be on, managing everything again. So I'm just extremely exhausted and kind of pissed in a way, because I didn't set up self-care for myself. And because of the mourning and because of the loss, and then now I've compounded it with this additional life stress situation, I haven't really fully done my rounds like I should have been doing. I've been doing a lot of faster EFT methods. I've been doing a lot of trying to compartmentalize the best that I can, and then today it just, no good, no bueno. So in knowing this, I wrote down what my associations were, which obviously is my dog dying, and I put my medical PTSD, I've got medical PTSD up there, and then I've got, as soon as I knew we were heading to go to the doctor's office, the closer I knew we were getting to it, the more my its and my symptoms and things started being very blaring. And then the dental procedure, and then going in the office and starting the process. I mean, I was just like a mess. And then, so with this, I had these two associations that I definitely know are medical PTSD related. And then my its were my anxiety, my urination type issues, my worry, and then later manifested in complete and utter exhaustion. My behavior was wanting to get the hell out of there. My behavior was coming up with reasons why I needed to leave the office, like needing to go to the bathroom, doing lots of back and forth, like just pacing type stuff, like wanting to get this done, like not asking a lot of questions like I would normally do if I was calm. It was more of like, tell me what we need to do, get this done so we can get out of here, and then we'll be back tomorrow. And then it's just like da 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 da. Like I'm like, come on, let's wrap this up. And then my husband and I and my son went to go have lunch, and I was just down for the count, like not at all functional, like just very wanting to withdraw, wanting to go up into the hotel room, wanting to I felt like I was coming out of my skin. I was so tired. I just felt unbelievable exhaustion. And really it's probably because my worry has been so hyper focused. My anxiety has been so hyper activated, and the medical PTSD side to all of this, and the experience and the trauma with everything is so blaring in my face that I hadn't been able to prepare for it due to the death of the dog and trying to process that. So it's just kind of a compounding of things. And this is life, and this is what happens. And if I don't get a handle on it, and if I don't know how to compartmentalize it, it can bite me in the ass. And so my fears that I wrote down are, reliving the experience and reliving this trauma that I dealt with my son at the beginning when I was getting sick, and I just could not deal with it. I mean, I was just like my whole body was on fire, and I was on dealing with him and worried, like sick, worried about him, and being afraid and not knowing, how to help him. And then my fears are, could my body not handle the death of the dog, and dealing with that and compartmentalizing it. And then now we got another thing to compound on that, which is the stress of the oral surgery. And I don't think the oral surgery would be as stressful if I wouldn't have had a previous experience with it that wasn't positive. So, and I did not handle, my behavior was exactly going back to my normal processing that I've always done, which is withdraw. Like, I want out. I want to get away from this. I just want to go and like hide in a closet somewhere and just cry and like take a bath and not think straight. So knowing this, the approach that I'm going to take with my round today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to start with my opening, which is, recognizing that I have a fear. I have some fears happening, like fears of going back, and fears of my body not handling this, fears of my body's incapable. I'm writing this down, incapable. My brain is keeping me hostage into this looping cycle. Writing this stuff down. And then, but my evidence is, number one, I did handle it. I'm gonna write this, I got it in my other book. So my evidence of healing during this situation is, so my book that I have for my opposites and the layout that I do for my rounds, my round will be kind of like a freeing, let go type round, and allow myself some space, right? You want to give yourself space, and the best way to do that, in my opinion, is either with water, because it's freeing. It's a flow of energy. It's expansive. It's like it expands and it flows and it deals with obstacles and everything else. So I kind of want to do a round that's freeing with letting go. And my evidence of healing is, I had tools today that I used, my faster EFT method, and that helped me regain my confidence to ask my question that I had for the doctor, without just like ask my question to the doctor. Because we drove 3 hours to see him, and he's in the land of giants, so I wanted to make sure he's the right guy. He's the guy with ozone. And he kind of laughed at me because he was like, how do you know about that? How do you know about ozone? I'm like, well, because I've done my research. And so there is evidence of healing that even despite me dealing with these its and feeling completely not at all together and wanting to withdraw, I still buckled up. I said, no, drove 3 hours. I'm going to take control of this situation and make sure that I'm confident in my research and confident in what I did. And I'm writing this, confident in my research and confident what I did. Knowing what I decided, my decision with my son. That I am capable. I'm capable of making major life decisions. Capable of making major life decisions. And when you can make these major life decisions when you're under duress, that's a really big sign that your brain is processing. My brain is processing. The only issue, I use the tools. I didn't flee. I didn't flee. I stayed. I could have bolted. I could have let my husband deal with everything, and he wouldn't have been able to ask the questions. He didn't even really know what the purpose of us driving 3.5, 4 hours to go to this appointment was. But I knew that it was important for me to ask that one question and make sure that I was confirming with myself that yes, I made the right decision to come all the way down here and to pick the right person to work on my son, so we don't have to relive that same experience. I'm writing this down. And so I can't, so I know that this isn't the same incidents. You can write this stuff down when you write down your evidence. This isn't the same scenario as last time. Because we want to make sure that the brain knows that this is different. This is a different time. This is not the same scenario. It's not the same doctor. Not the same doctor. Not the same unsafe practice. Not same unsafe practice. So we can give ourselves evidence that we are safe. Evidence is that we're safe. We're well informed. Our experience has given us a lesson. Your experience is giving us a life lessons. Or experience has taught us to research, and we're going to be safe the next time, safer the next time. And, so I know that what I'm doing and how I'm going about this is safe and not some willy-nilly bullshit thing that we've done in the past that didn't produce very good results. And so I have to focus in on that, because otherwise it feels very unsafe to me, and the association is very scary. And it's so much connected to medical PTSD. It is crazy connected to medical PTSD. And as far as my dog goes, maybe knowing that the ebbs and flows of grief is going to come and go. And right now I want to cry. But I'm really appreciative that my round now, I get to see her again when I incorporate my spirit guide. So when I have my spirit guide, which I'm going to write down, it's my sister and my dog, my loved dog that I get to connect with, knowing that she's completely taken care of, and she's not in pain anymore, and she's no longer suffering, and she's living the dream. She's living out her dreams, or maybe she's reincarnated into some other fun, loving puppy dog that gets to go and give a kid that needs lots of unconditional love and licks and all the things that she brought to our table. Maybe she's doing that because she's gonna go bring more joy to some other family. And so that gives me lots of reassurance, knowing that all the stuff I did for her in the end wasn't done just fruitlessly. It was done with unconditional love, something she would have done for us. And I know that all my efforts that I did for that was purely for unconditionally loving her. So as I'm going through the grief process, I'm reminding myself that I lost my beloved dog, and I took really good care of her the last couple of weeks, that she really went downhill fast. And I knew that all my efforts were going to be like I'm gonna lose her anyway. But in the end, sorry, it was an act of unconditional love. So I'm going to pull that into I'm lucky I get to pull that into my round with her. So I get to bring her back into my round and bring her into my spirit guide connection. So that inner faith is really key when you connect with your spirit guide, because you connect to unconditional love, if that makes sense. So anyway, I'm going to be going to go ahead and start my round. So here we go. I'm just going to go. I know we're already 20 minutes into this, but I just had to talk a little bit about recognition of medical PTSD and how it can still affect people. I mean, it's really hit me. It hit me like crazy today. And I'm glad that I took the time, and this is all about self-care and unconditionally loving ourselves, take the time to say stop, take the time to say no. I need to set aside some time to really address what it is that's coming at me, these associations, medical PTSD, what is manifesting out of it, what are my behaviors with it, recognizing that this scenario isn't the same scenario that it was before when you first got traumatized with medical stuff, or each time you got traumatized with medical stuff. We can recognize that we're healing. Some people only focus when they get test results on the negative. They're like, oh my God, my one blood work was way off, but they don't focus on the 80 other tests that you had done that showed, visible healing. And that's the medical PTSD, because we got lobbed and smacked across the head with heavy diagnosis, heavy things that we had to take on and do, and modulations and treatments and major things that we've all had to undertake, and detoxification that can really make us feel sick and shitty. And so if as you're healing and there's only a couple more things, there are a few things that you're still trying to work on or fix, and always keep in mind this stuff changes like that. So it's just a snapshot. So people get so fixated on the one or two or three things that are not right or that are negative, but pretty much if you checked anybody's blood on the daily, there would be something that would pop up on everybody's blood work that they need to work on. Either they're dehydrated, or their blood sugars are off, or because they didn't eat, that day, or maybe they were super stressed and then their cortisol levels are different. There's always just something. And so we have to keep that in mind, that blood work can change, and it's just a snapshot. And also keep in mind, I know this sounds crazy, but who's handling your blood work? There's a lot of energy that gets transferred into our blood work, guys, when we have people that are touching and dealing with our blood work and running it and processing it. And I sold diagnostic testing, so I know it's processed in a big lab processing center. So usually it's all robotically handled, but you have somebody that touches it before that. You have somebody who's drawing the blood from you before that. That makes a huge difference too. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and continue on with my round, and so I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to take a couple big deep breaths. I feel really tense, just really tight. My body feels tight. I know I have just been under some major duress, and I have had my associations come at me like lightning bolts, and it makes me understand more that this big processing unit in my mind is telling my amygdala that, oh no, we're going through the same scenario again, danger, 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 danger. And so all these its that came at me today all come with a price tag on it, such as fear, fear of suffering, fear of watching my loved ones suffer, fear of all that once I dealt with before that traumatized me or made me question my capabilities of managing stress, of handling multiple things at once, and dealing with stuff. It just, sorry, I get emotional about it, but it just makes me relive it in my mind again. And I know that was so many years ago, And I know I'm so stronger than that. So I'm calling upon my spirit guides. I'm going to go ahead and call upon my spirit guides before we go into the steps. I'm going to change it up just a little bit because I feel like when we have these moments, we really need to call and get that loving touch and support and connectivity to our unconditional source of love. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call upon my spirit guide. I see her presence. She's coming towards me. She's a beautiful white glowing light, just very calming presence to her. Lots of smiling, lots of just really, just childlike, but pretty adult too, has been through life experiences with me, understanding, loving, connected to that unconditional higher source, that higher power that she's been touched by. And then I also feel that fun, playful energy, that goofiness, that obedient, but unconditional, pleasing love, that ball of fur bouncing towards me with her beautifully charactered face and her hair that's soft and not smelly like it always is, but she just looks youthful, and she's just, her tail or wagtail is spinning her in circles. And she sees me, but she's really obedient to my sister. And she's running around and providing a lot of loving, fun energy. And my sister gets closer to me, and she's kind of the dog's kind of distraction, my dog. But a positive distraction, one of which I just want to keep my eyes on, but I know I need a little bit more of a hug and love and connection, touching, so I can feel her reach out to my shoulders. And she whispers, I'm here with you. I see you. I want you to know you're doing such a good job, and I love you. And she pulls back from me, and she says to me, I know this is really hard, and I know you miss her. And I say, yeah, I miss her a lot. But she's with me, and she's having a great time. And she's got all of her energy back. And she's got all of her liveliness, and she's just literally running and barking and playing, and she's just in such a good position. And you did such a good job unconditionally loving her and not allowing her to suffer all the way to the end. And she's very appreciative, and she's very thankful. And she unconditionally loves you, and she's always with you. You'll have her with all these memories and everything else. And I feel so blessed that I have her connected to me again. And then my sister says, I know that you are so fearful about tomorrow and the surgery, but you've done such an awesome job of doing all of your homework, finding the right person, knowing, unfortunately, all the stuff that you know and the life experiences that you've had, and knowing that, hey, we're not going back there again. We found the right route. We found the right guy who can safely take care of our son, and we'll have an awesome recovery, and we know that we're being held up. And she says, besides that, you have God, and he has such a strong faith. My son has such a strong faith that everything's going to be okay. He's got such a good positive energy to him, and he's so connected to God, and he knows I'm just going to let it go to him and let him carry me through it. And I know that I can call upon my people, my spirit people, to surround him, and St. Michael, everybody around him in that chair, knowing that he's fully protected and on every angle, and that he's guiding the doctor's arm and giving the doctor every instinctive, knowledgeable type thing that they're planning in his head and his body, and he knows what to do, and he knows how to handle things, and he knows how to take care of my son. And he's extremely knowledgeable and very much aware of all the issues that could potentially go wrong, and all that he's so open-minded with Lyme and everything else. He knows all about it. He's not a dum-dum, and he practices differently than most oral physicians, facial surgeons do in the state of Illinois and the state of Missouri. And so I know that I did my research, and I know that I'm confident in that. My sister says, but you also know that you haven't stopped, and that you need to love yourself just a little bit more, and understand that these fears came at you for a reason. These things came at you for a reason. It's because you're not trusting in the process. You're not trusting that this is a new experience. It's not the same experience as it was before. You're not trusting in your confidence and knowing that you made every bit of the right decision on what you made, where you're at, and what you're doing. Going in there with that confident reassurance of knowing that there should be no fears. You did everything you're supposed to do. You got the right people in line, and this isn't the same scenario, and you're better prepared to be able to handle anything. You know what to do, where to go, how to get things done. And we are in a safer place, in a safer situation. And so my sister says, I'm so proud of you, because despite today and having the breakdown that you've had today, you have done everything to keep up, and you've not once stopped. You've kept up. The only fault you have here is not unconditionally loving yourself enough and trusting in yourself, trusting in your body, and knowing that your body needs reassurance to know it can handle anything, and then telling the brain, calm down, we're addressing it. We've got reassurance, we've got confidence, we've got knowing that we've got the right tools, we can do the things that we need to do to handle, to manage the suffering, and to mitigate it, and to be proactive. You're not confident in that. You need to be really reassuring in that, knowing that. And that's where we went wrong today. That's the thing we have to work on, is that confidence. Knowing that this isn't the same scenario as it was before. You are well prepared. You have everything laid out in front of you. You did the research, you did the homework, you did the you got 3 opinions from 3 different physicians. You weren't just messing around, just going, oh, sure, okay, let's just go ahead and do that willy-nilly. And your body is a lot stronger, more capable of handling it. Look how you sat in that waiting room today, and you managed it. You didn't pop Xanax, you did some tapping, you didn't care what people saw you or didn't see you, and you went in the bathroom, you did a stop round. You did all the things that you could when you were in the room waiting. You didn't get up and leave. You sat there. You reassured. You focused. You got mad at your husband, but really, honestly, you were mad because of the way you were handling it and dealing with it. That's what it all boils down to. And you didn't have somebody there to reassure you that it's not the same scenario. He doesn't understand this fully. He understands it, but he doesn't understand it. And you put that expectation on him, and really you were just mad because you had this reaction, because we didn't prepare ourselves for this. And that's where we have to do the work. And you've been doing the work, and right now you're doing the work, and I'm super proud of you. So let's get situated, and let's get more grounded. So I feel my sister's presence. She comes around me. We step back at checkpoint. This is where we would get more grounded. This time I want to sit on my step, my big granite rock. I feel like just sitting, not having to stand, but still get grounded with putting my hands on that rock, that cold, heavy rock that's holding me up, can feel all the different grooves and the variations, all the ups and downs, and the roughness and the smoothness, and I can feel the edge of the rock, or I can feel the bumps. I can feel the different types of different rocks that are like composition in the rock layers, and I can feel the edges, and I'm sitting there, that top granite step that God put in the side of this mountainous valley area, and I'm surrounded by all these giant mountains all around me, like almost like there's strong guards standing in attention all in the distance all around. And I'm just witnessing this big, beautiful valley down below. And I can feel the wind blowing at my face. I can feel all the hair tickling the sides of my neck and my face, blowing back and then kind of hitting me in the sides of my cheek, around my neck. And the wind's blowing at my chest, and it feels really cool. I can still feel the sun though. The sun's like almost closer to the late afternoon. It's still in the sky and it's warm, and everything is reaching to get a little bit more of the sun in, the late afternoon sun before it starts setting, and it gets cooler and everything has to kind of settle back in for the night, relax, kind of fold up, get warmth, covet that energy. And I'm looking down, I can see and I can hear the water that's flowing down from the mountains in the distance in the background. And I can't see the mountains, but I know that they're there, and all the water is coming from the snow melting from the caps, coming down, trickling down the tops of the rocks and spilling and making its way and pushing. All the water's pushing the water molecules ahead of itself, going, come on, keep going. And everything behind it keeps pushing the water. It's like the water are these little tiny molecules, and the molecules behind those molecules are being pushed, and the molecules behind those molecules are being pushed, and everything just keeps getting pushed, and there's pressure, and so the water keeps coming down. It goes around the rocks that have fallen into the pathway. But this water is so strong, so powerful, that it's carved this, like a ditch, like a valley, like a river. It's so strong that it's just pushed all this mud and made this area even wider. So it's a wide river now, and the water keeps flowing over the rocks. And I can see the big boulders in the water, and the water comes and then it splits around it, and then it goes around all the little other rocks and kind of jumps over the different rocks to get around them, and the water keeps going. And then there's that tree that was uprooted, and you can see the roots sitting up at the side of the bank, and they look kind of cool, like you could take a picture of them, look like you could climb over them, all over the roots, and hang on them and swing like monkeys all throughout the root system. And the tree is fallen in the water, and the water just rushes over it, just like it's not even there. It's like, whoop, going over the water, going over the tree trunk. And now at this point, all the leaves have been taken off and pulled away and pushed out into that lake where the water spills into. And I can see all the water just constantly flowing and moving, continually trying to carve. If there's not enough space, it'll carve its way into the sides of the river banks, or it'll flood over the tops of the rocks. It just doesn't matter. It's going to spread, it's going to open, it's going to move. It keeps going, it's never ending. I can see all the water flowing continually, and then it opens up into that lake. And my eyes are focused back a little bit now on that big, beautiful tree. Its root system is just clinging to the edge of this bank. It's absorbing all the water that's flooding past, and it's just like drinking it, and it's growing, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the tree is getting fuller and fuller, and all the branches are hanging over on the tops of the water. And it keeps pushing up higher and it's hanging more, and it's pushing up higher and it's hanging more, but some of those branches of the willow tree are touching the top of the surface and dancing along the top of the surface. And it tries to grow a leaf on that branch, and it pops off and proceeds to float along the top of the surface, around and out, and you could see them like they're like little baby boats on the top of the water surface, and they float out, and then you watch them and they go out into the water, and they're floating on the top of the surface. And the surface is so peaceful in comparison to the rolling river and all the rocks and it's almost like the water is just getting there. It's trying to rush to get there because it just wants peace and calm and relaxation. Once it gets there, it's moved so much. And once it spills out into the open lake, it just spreads and relaxes. And the lake is so wide now that the mountains are reflecting onto the lake. So it looks like a double set, like a real set in the distance, and then a reflection set in the water. And if the wind moves, it kind of ripples, so it makes the mountains look like they're moving. And the sun is dancing in between the mountains on the lake. It's a beautiful sight, and I'm just staring at it, just peacefully watching that beautiful reflection of movement. And then just then, I can feel it, that presence of that bald eagle coming over my shoulders, flying down, looking, surveying the land. It sees that little fox that's in that little spot right next to the willow tree, kind of resting and taking little bits of drinks and resting. It's like a red fox. It's beautiful. It looks like a little animal that I could pick up and snuggle on and pet the fur. But it's just laying there. Doesn't understand that the bald eagle is right over it, but he's flying down. He sees it, but he knows that fox, once he sees him, he's too quick. So the bald eagle decides, I'm just going to continue to ride. It's getting late in the afternoon. I'm just going to start unwinding and just riding the waves of the wind, stretching my arms out, being expansive, knowing it's time just to relax. And he looks back at me, and I see him, and he sees me. He's a symbol of leadership, strength, and will and determination. He's a leader of his own life, his own journey, his own path. He's confident, yet calm, calculated, smart, just like that fox. Smart, quick, always quick and ready to go and deal with life, manage it. They both manage and deal with life differently. Their own little leaders. But that bald eagle to me is that it just has so much symbolism in him. And he looks forward and he budges forward and he starts focusing in on that lake as he just wants to ride into the lake and soak up all that peace like me. And I watch him just soar all the way down, just bending and swaying, dipping and turning, and then allowing the wind to carry him back up again. And then he forges down a bit. And then his whole body just disappears in the reflection of the lake. And I feel more grounded, more secure with myself, more understanding, more confident. I'm standing back in that position at checkpoint. And I know what I gotta do. I gotta step into position 3. And I I gotta be that motivator self, tell myself that I am strong, I am confident. I'm not me 5-6 years ago that just was unaware. I am wise. I'm confident, assured, full of knowledge, very smart, very calculated, very caring, very loving, unconditionally loving, protective, unconditionally loving my dog, loving her, unconditionally loving my son, protecting his health, making sure I've got the right next steps, being assured in my decision-making skills, knowing that I'm in good hands, got good faith, knowing that God's going to guide the surgeon, and there's nothing that we can't handle. We know that God's got plans, and God's going to help him get through this, and we're going to have a better outcome. We're not going backwards, and the body is healing, and I feel confident that my brain can relax. I feel confident that my body can stay strong and proud and assured and relaxed. No worries. I'll be a different person tomorrow. Because I took the time today and I did the work because I'm determined. I'm focused. And I'm loving myself. I love myself. I unconditionally love myself. I'm recognizing what I need. I'm recognizing what I don't need. I'm protective. I'm coveting my emotional energy, my emotional health. I'm doing so damn good with these associations. Spotting it out. Telling the subconscious no. No. And then accepting, saying, I accept love, I accept grace, I accept understanding, I accept the power that I have now that I didn't have before. I accept that control. I'm way further along than I've ever been. Well-rounded. I'm just so proud of myself. So I'd step back into position 4, knowing which way I'm going. I'm heading that way. I'm heading towards that future me tomorrow, who's going to walk in to the doctor's office, holding my purse in hand, got my water, got my son, holding his hand, knowing that every step I take, I push the door open. And I walk in and I walk up to that frosted glass window and I say, we're here for an appointment for David. And I know that I just prayed and said, please God, protect over him today, protect over the surgeon and the nurses that are going to help him feel as calm and secured and held. And I'm standing there and I'm saying this to myself, please God, work through him. Work through the doctor to protect him and keep him safe and get everything that he needs out. Help him protect his body from anything that could be infection-wise. Use the stuff that we need to use to help clean everything up. Kill and disinfect. And give him the strength he needs, and give David the strength he needs to work through the pain, manage it. We know that we're going to be focused on him, and I know that he has the strength to pull through. It's going to take me having the strength to be able to manage it, but also then manage my stress. And I'm standing there in the waiting room, confidently making that decision, knowing that we are in the right place, knowing that this is a totally different experience, totally different time. And I'm assured that everything that I've done up to this point is all for him and his best interest. making the right decisions. And I'm going to sit there in that chair with the floral print on it and the wood backing on it. And rub my feet back and forth, and I'm going to go, "You're going to do great, David. We're in the right spot. Everything's going to be so good. And I'm going to be right there waiting for you, holding your hand. You're going to be so brave. Nothing to worry about. It's going to be so fast. And then we're going to get all the popsicles we could ever want to eat. I'll even eat popsicles with him. It's a free-for-all. Can't wait." And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to wait for him, knowing that he's going to be totally fine. And that St. Michael's is in there, and my sister's in there, and Coda's right next to him. And all my grandma, my uncles, everybody that loves him, surrounding him with love, protecting him, watching over him in that room. And I feel so calm and relaxed, almost as if I want to go into my second visual. Knowing that I'm in these sacred waters, I'm standing there, and I'm in this beautiful, long, flowing gown. It's like orange and just very loose. There's this big, beautiful stone bath, like an outdoor bath in this ancient garden area. And in the water, there's all these beautiful floating flowers. They're so fragrant, I can smell them. They're like lotus and almost like lilies. Very fragrant. It's like a very fragrant smell. And in the distance, the water pours in this mouth of this, almost looks like either a lion's mouth that's pouring out, or like a big, beautiful, like serpent type thing where the water flows into the water, and you can feel the energy. It's very sacred. And I can feel all the energy around. The light is lower in the sky. I can feel the wind on my face. And I can see the healer in the distance, and he's waving at me. He's an older man. He's got Asian eyes, kind of a mustache. And he's in some sort of ancient robe, and he's waving at me, telling me to get in the water, and he puts his hand out and looks down at the water. And there's these beautiful steps below me, these stone steps that go into the water that I step down on. In the water, I put my toe in, and it feels tepid, like a warm bath, but not too warm, but like just perfect. It's like room temperature. It's like not cold. It's almost like it's just like perfectly, like it would be like a blanket stepping into a blanket. And as soon as I put my toe in, I can feel the energy rise up into my toe. And I can feel my foot go in. It's wet as I'm stepping down the step, and I can feel the energy circling around my feet. It's almost like all the energy is coming towards me. This pooling light of energy in the water is coming towards my feet and glowing around my body, glowing around my ankles, glowing around my calves. I can feel the energy. I don't feel it physical, but I can feel the presence of it. It's just floating around my legs, up to my knees, up around my thighs and my body, that clothes that I'm wearing. I don't have any underwear or bra, but I'm just wearing that robe. And I can feel it clinging and moving around my body in the water. And I'm standing in the water. And I put my hands in. Now I can feel the energy around my hands in the water. I just lounge relaxed. The water is slowly moving around my body, and the further I step in on the ground, solid stone flooring on the bottom, but my body feels so light light, just free floating in the water, and it's holding me up, surrounding me. And just then I feel the need to just put my whole body in the water. And as I go down the water, I can feel the water circling around my chest, around my neck. My hair is floating in the water. My face is all wet. And I can feel all the energy around my face and my head. And then I come out of the water and I turn around and lay back on the surface of the water, and my whole body just floats. My arms are out, my chest is up, and the water and the dress is just flattening over the top of my chest, and I put my legs out. My whole body just rises up to the top of the surface, and I just float with my head back. It's like everything's carrying me and holding me up. I can smell that smell of flowers. It's almost like the flowers are gathering around my body, framing me out in the water. I can feel the flower up against my arms, kind of like tickling it, brushing it, and then there's one right by my face, and I can smell it. There's one on next to my other side of my head, my face. And I'm just floating there on the top of the surface, relaxed, feeling like my whole body's expansive, but being held. It's like one molecule at a time is just expanding out, and my body's just expanding. And I feel so big in the water, like my whole body's stretched out. All the flowers are all around me. I take a deep breath in, and I just float. And I feel my sister's presence around me, and she says, "Okay, it's time. It's time to relax and let go of all the worries for today, and just let your body expand and float. And let all of it go. Let all of it drain out into the water and circle all around you. And I let it go with each breath. Just let my body go. Feels so good. Okay. I feel totally good. Awesome round. Thank you all for tuning in. Please reach out if you have any questions, and please continue to brain retrain, and do your best to recognize medical PTSD and find the association, find the its, find the fears, find the behavior, and address it with lots of evidence and lots of unconditional love. Thank you.